If I had to start this journey over again, there would be a few things I would do differently. It's been 9 months since I started my journey on living a more digitally minimalistic life. In September of 2023, I had hit rock bottom in all senses possible. My personal life, my professional life, and of course my mental health. And when I hit rock bottom, I knew things had to change. And one of those things was my addiction to my smartphone. When I first went on the digital minimalism journey, I thought that I would need to switch to a dumb phone and this would solve all my problems. That couldn't be more from the truth. Switching to a dumb phone is a big step, and I don't think for myself it was a sustainable one. I don't regret switching to a dumb phone, but if I had to go back in time and do it again, I might have done it a little bit differently. My problem wasn't my addiction to my smartphone per se, but it was an addiction to the apps on my smartphone. I was addicted primarily to doom scrolling on a lot of different social media platforms. I didn't know then that the apps, of course, were designed to be addictive, and I thought it was my device that was causing the addiction rather than my addiction to habits of going into applications, receiving notifications, and my overall relationship with technology. All of these factors needed to come into play to get to where I am today. Honestly, I'm at the best space that I've been since I started my journey. I'm down to about 16 minutes on average per day using my phone. And yes, today I'm actually using a smartphone, a older and a bit dumbed down smartphone, but I'm still able to use a smart device more responsibly and essentially only use it as a communication device. But within this journey, I went through different phases. So my first phase was get rid of everything and just use a dumb phone. This phase was interesting and I did learn a lot. I learned that a dumb phone is a great way to see which apps you actually need in your life to do daily tasks. So a lot of us need applications such as navigation or email and banking apps, and these apps you can't live without essentially. So when I first switched over to a dumb phone, I used the Nokia 6300 4G. It was a great dumb phone. It worked with KaiOS. You had applications such as Google Maps, even email. But what I realized is that this phone was almost too smart for me in my process of the digital minimalism journey. I did have access to social media, and at that point, I was in such a state of addiction. Even if I knew I didn't want to use the apps, I would still log into the apps or download apps that I didn't necessarily need but would waste my time on. Since I had such a habit of opening phones, responding to notifications, and just out of anxiety or boredom picking up my phone anywhere that I had extra time with, the dumb phone didn't really solve this. In order to solve my addiction or crutch to my smartphone or even dumb phone at this point was not the device's fault, it was my relationship with technology. This took months to kind of break down what my problem was, how I could solve that problem, and how I've gotten to where I am today. Now, I'm not perfect, and I'm not saying my way is perfect, but it took me a long time to kind of break everything down and build up a way that I can use technology intentionally, and it seems to be working for me now. I've used multiple dumb phones, I've used some smartphones, I've even gone back to my BlackBerry, which I still use all of these devices here and there, and I find this is also a key. You don't have to limit yourself to one device. You can have a few different devices for a few different needs. A lot of people who are active and want to be outside maybe don't want to take their expensive smartphone with them every time they're going to do these activities just in case it might break, or if the device is too large. I know when I had my iPhone 15 Pro Max, it was like carrying a tablet around. I couldn't put it in my pocket, I had to always have it in a bag, and I was worried about dropping it or damaging it, even though it was in a case. And honestly, I was glad that I discovered dumb phones so that way I could have a phone on me when I was doing mountain biking or hiking where I didn't want to take an expensive device with me. Now, I have an array of different dumb phones and I have different phones for different use cases. And I find this makes life a bit more exciting. It's like choosing a phone for your lifestyle. And I think maybe one device is not enough to fit everyone's lifestyle. Some people like to take a smartwatch with cellular connection and completely just make it as minimal as possible. And this is an awesome idea. You can have your phone on your wrist if you actually need it. Now, for myself personally, I needed a device that could perform my basic necessities, and this included apps such as banking, navigation, and essential emails. Now, after going through my process of using my BlackBerry devices, I had a hard time using them long term because it didn't offer a lot of specific applications, for example, WhatsApp. As much as I tried to get around it, I can't. I need this application. I use it to communicate with family, with friends, and also in a professional context. I do some volunteering, and a lot of these groups are within WhatsApp, and I need to communicate on a regular basis. So in order for me to find a device that worked for me, I either had to have a companion device, which I used often with my books Palma, alongside a Dumbphone that had a hotspot connection, or I had to use a smartphone. Now, I didn't want to use a traditional smartphone that has a larger screen and less pocketable. So I had to break down my life a bit more and kind of dissect which smartphone with the smallest form factor kind of fit my needs. And that's how I had ended up using the iPhone SE 2016. Now, this device works for me now. There are some apps that don't work on the device and are no longer supported, but they're not life-changing apps that I actually need. So I can deal with that compromise. And I think when you're looking at a device, look at it as a tool. Which device offers you the tools you actually need today? Something that you can kind of break down your life in. Some people can break down their life into apps they actually need and use a completely minimalist phone, and that's excellent. That's great. If you can survive on a light phone 2 or even a Punked MP02, perfect. I had used the Punked MP02 and I found it was a great compromise for those people who want to use Signal, for example, or Pigeon as Punked likes to coin it. And I think these minimalist devices are great tools for those of us who don't need specific applications. But as somebody who is visually impaired, I do rely more and more on specific applications that I need on a smart device. For example, I've been using a lot Seeing AI. This device enables me to read documents and to take a picture of my environment and have it described to me. I have a lot of difficulty seeing signs, maps, or even reading my mail, and it's really become a necessity to have such an application on hand all the time for me as a tool. It's not something I'm going to doom scroll in or waste my time in. I really just need it as a tool. So I had to come to the conclusion that I needed to adapt my life and choose the tools in my life appropriately. Now, also on this digital minimalism journey, I learned a lot about separating my apps into specific devices for my needs. A lot of people need social media for their work, and I understand that. I do use YouTube, and I use YouTube Studio to communicate within comments and review my analytics. These are applications I absolutely need in order to do what I'm doing, be a creative person, create content. And I keep those applications on separate devices in my home. I do keep YouTube Studio on my smartphone or my iPhone SE 2016 because I'd like to stay on top of content and stay on top of my comments. This is not something you can really doom scroll in because you can only have access to your analytics, but it could be addictive if you're somebody who likes to see the numbers all the time. So I really keep a close eye on this, and I find that I'm not really using it that often, so I can keep it on my device. But as far as YouTube is concerned, I do watch a lot of YouTube content, so I'd like to keep this on a separate device dedicated to entertainment. In fact, I invested in a tablet. I had previously got rid of my iPad because I didn't want it in my life, but I invested in a Lenovo M9 tablet. I got a tablet that has a smaller form factor and connects with my Lenovo ThinkPad easier for mirroring when I'm traveling. So I primarily use my tablet as an entertainment device. This is where I store YouTube. I also have Netflix on there as well. and even Reddit. So these are my entertainment applications, and I leave my tablet in a specific location in my home. This tablet stays in my living room. It doesn't go in my bedroom. It doesn't go in my bag. I don't travel with it. I don't take it anywhere else. I just leave it in my house for entertainment purposes, kind of like a television. And I find dividing the apps into specific devices like this seems to have greatly reduced my dependence and addiction to my phone. I primarily just put my phone in my pocket and leave it there just in case somebody calls me. That's it. That's all I'm using it for. Sometimes I go in and mess with the settings, or I check the calendar app to know which day for certain events or something like that. But that's primarily all I'm using my smartphone for, not really the smart features. Another thing is I've removed social media completely from my life, and this includes my computer, my tablet, and my smartphone. I find that social media is a great tool, and I understand those who need to use it. A lot of creators like myself are using other platforms to promote their channels and things like this. I myself find that I cannot use these tools as of yet. I'm somebody who is quite addicted, and I find that these tools are designed to keep me there as long as possible. So I've limited my only social media app per se to YouTube. This is because I create videos and I like to consume content, and this is my primary entertainment app. I know that some of these apps can be quite addictive, such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all of these, and I've removed them from my life. I've even removed LinkedIn, and as somebody who is unemployed, I understand why people need this app to find a job. I myself find there are other platforms out there that are maybe less addicting and less toxic to my mental health, so I will pursue those avenues if needed to find a job. Now, overall, in 9 months, I think that I'm finally at a place where I am content with my relationship with technology. I could always do better, for sure, but I find that I have more time in my life to do things that I want to do. For example, I would not have started this YouTube channel if I had not stopped using my smartphone. It was something that I've always wanted to do. I even created this channel, if you look on my channel information page, in 2015, but I never posted on it because I was addicted to my phone. I always thought, oh, I don't have time. I'm working a full-time job. Now I have a child. I don't have time. I don't have time. In fact, I got a lot of time back, and time is something that you can't buy. It's something that everyone has a limited quantity of. And when you look at life in a more philosophical light, and you think, I have this finite amount of time, and that could change any day. I mean, health is something that I've learned to value, and as somebody who's losing their vision, I'm starting to really focus on things that matter, and I want to focus on looking at things while I can that I appreciate and want to spend my time on. So I think getting this time back, I've rediscovered my love of music. I've gotten off streaming platforms such as Spotify, and this has given me time to focus on music and curating my own playlist and really taking a passion in things that I once loved and kind of forgot about with the convenience of modern technology. I've also spent more time reconnecting with friends face to face and even phone calls, and relearning some old habits that had died with the convenience of modern technology. I know some applications that people will absolutely need, and some devices they can't possibly get off. But I think learning to rethink your relationship with technology and how you want to spend your time, because it is a finite resource, is really important. And I think teaching younger generations or even older generations how our time is precious and how we shouldn't be wasting it on something that potentially makes us angry, puts us in a zombie state to where we don't even know how much time we're spending in it, and not getting any true value out of it. I mean, a lot of the time I was in a bad mental health state, I would turn to social media to kind of escape my problems and not really deal with them. And I think from a mental health perspective, that wasn't very good, of course, but that was my coping mechanism. And I didn't know any different. I just wanted to forget my problems and kind of ignore everything and not really set goals for myself or work towards something because I just wanted to be numb and not think about it. Super unhealthy, and I know this. And I'm working on it to make it better, and I'm working on trying to just live again and try to focus on the future, focus on now, spend time in the moment, and stop wasting so much time on my devices. So no, a dumb phone did not change my life, did not cure my addiction, did not stop me from using social media, but it did make me hyper aware of how I use technology and how I need to take control of technology and use it in an intentional manner. I think that dumb phones are a great tool, but I think all technology is a tool and we need to think of how we want to use those tools. Some of us are more aware than others and their journeys look very different than mine, but I think everyone can come together and agree that things need to change. And I think that we're all learning how to change in our own way, and that's beautiful. Everyone's journey is different. And I really hope that you enjoy following mine and maybe it'll inspire you for your journey. And I really appreciate everyone giving their input on what works for them. And it's really helped me build a community, but as well as a support system. And I wouldn't be where I'm at without all of you helping me, guiding me, or even putting me in my place sometimes. And I really appreciate it. And thank you all so much for watching and supporting. And see you soon.